Greetings, fellow weavers of fates and sages of dice. My name's Ben, I'm the rookie DM, and we are talking about Session 1 of the campaign that I am running on the continent of Bessar in the world of Avarian. This is a long-form custom homebrew campaign in a homebrew world that I've come up with, and I'm happy and excited to be walking you through the very first part of this adventure with these players and talk to you a little bit about the decisions that I've made, why I have made them, what I think was a mistake, what I think has gone really well, and the hope is to help you, fellow new DM or aspiring DM, to run D&D and feel better about doing so. So today we're just talking about Session 1, doing a little bit of a recap of what happened and how I set up the story. Let's get into it. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Happy to have you here. If you've not watched the first two videos, I highly recommend you go back and watch, especially the first video, as that is where I talk a lot about how I decided to set up the campaign, how I set up the campaign, how I got my players, just give you some background on me as a rookie DM. I've at this point only run 12 sessions of D&D total between two different campaigns. The first campaign went for 9 sessions before I had to bow out due to some unforeseen circumstances, and then this campaign, which is the same campaign but with a new group of players, we have run for I think 3 sessions. It might be 4, I don't actually remember. We're not talking about that. We're talking about Session 1. And so when I mentioned 2 groups, 2 separate groups of players, absolutely no overlap. The first group, more experienced players. The second group, about half brand new, half experienced players. First group had 5 players. New group has 6 players. And it's interesting to see some of the differences between them. The first group, we started at level 2. The second group, we started at level 1. And if you want to hear more about why I did that and the story behind that, go back to the second video about Session 0 that I'll put a link to in the description. So, Session 1, all of the players had gotten aboard a ship called Melora's Grace, bound for Kuwari Island and a little town called Narun. This ship sailed out of the capital coastal metropolis of Setis, S-E-T-I-S, the capital of the Setesian Republic. Setis is a bustling metropolis of trade, debauchery, politics, corruption, and all kinds of various activities. We'll get to Setis later in the story. All of the players boarded this ship for their own various reasons, and perhaps now is a good time to give you a very brief overview of the party that I have here. The first party, I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember all of the characters. That was a year ago or more, so I don't remember all of them. I know we had a cleric, a wizard, a paladin, and 2 others. I don't remember who they were, I'm sorry. So, for the 6 players in the new campaign, we have an elven druid named Bjorn. We have a paladin Goliath named Tormek. We have a gnome wizard named Ziz. We have a water genasi warlock named Caspian. We have a human shadow monk named Arthur. And we have a human rogue named Nadir. So that is the party. So we've got a pretty good mix there. I kind of hinted and encouraged them to get a healer, which is how we got the druid. And you know, the pally has a little bit of healing, but you know, I didn't want to tell them like, hey, someone needs to be a cleric, because I wanted them to play whatever they found fun for them. But I was pretty surprised as a DM that I had 6 players and not one of them was a cleric. I thought surely someone is going to be a healer. Nope. They're it's whatever the druid and the paladin can provide pretty for the most part. That's about what they got. So that'll be interesting to see how that unfolds as the sessions go on. But that's the party that we have for this second session. Now, how this started, I told them before session 1, I said, you are on a ship, Melora's Grace, a couple days into your 5-day journey, one fateful night aboard Melora's Grace. About 2 evenings into your journey, there was a sudden storm and an explosion, and then everything went black. And that was all I told them before session 1, for the most part. Aside from a little bit of background for the campaign, that was the gist of it. Now, for session 1, how I began, I love atmosphere and ambience, so I, at that point, turned off the music. I found a YouTube video that had the sound of waves crashing on a shore, and I picked one of the players at random. I actually had them roll, since we had 6 players, I had them roll a d6, and I just kind of numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that was how I decided who woke up first. And I turned to that player, I said, okay, your eyes adjust as the bright morning sun pierces down from a cerulean blue sky above you. You feel wet. There's sand shifting underneath you. You peel a bit of seaweed off of your face as you realize that you are no longer aboard a ship, but on a beach. And you look about and see bodies, driftwood, broken crates. You've washed ashore. Something terrible happened to the ship you were on, and there's apparently nothing left. You are marooned on a strange island or landmass, an unknown beach, you know not where. What do you do? And that is how our session begins. That is how our campaign, our story begins. Stranded, marooned on a unknown beach somewhere off of the coast of Basar, having sailed away from Satis for a couple of days. And that is, so that's how it started. And the other bodies on the beach were the other players. And so I gave them an opportunity to decide, do they wake each other up? Do they try and steal from one another? You know, how would that play out? I thought it'd be kind of a fun little bit of chaos to sew in there. But, you know, there's a couple other bodies on there that were dead, but as they awoke and came to their senses, they realized that there was no money left. Someone had taken all of their coin purses, and there was a set of footprints leading up away from the water into a cave nearby. And that was sort of my way of not so subtly hinting to the players, go here. And like I said, I wanted to start the very first part of this campaign kind of a little bit linear, a little bit railroaded, just at the very beginning, especially with newer players here, wanting to get them into groove with each other as a party, and with me as a DM, and also just to set some things up. Now, differences. The first time I ran through this, the party was 5 players at level 2. So I did not have a combat encounter on the beach. I thought about it, but I ultimately decided not to do it. For the second group at level 1 with 6 players, I decided to throw a relatively easy combat encounter with some giant crabs at them. I gave them a few extra hit points, but otherwise they were just your standard giant crabs in the handbook. I actually did have one player almost die because the wizard, for whatever reason, decided to go into melee with giant crab and almost got his ass kicked out of the almost had to roll a new character. I mean, literally had 2 death saves at one point because he rolled a natural 1 on his very first death save, and I was just like, no this is not supposed to happen. This is supposed to be an easy encounter. But when you're dealing with new players, I mean, even with experienced players, you never really know what they're going to do, but especially with new players, you really don't know what they're going to do. And so, and at level 1, God, they're squishy. So I actually, after they did that encounter, I had them level up to level 2 because, to be totally honest, I was a little bit scared I was going to accidentally kill them, or at least one of them. And I thought, y'all are so freaking squishy. I got to get you guys some more hit points or something, because I want to be able to make encounters that are like kind of challenging without like a genuine risk of killing you right off the bat. Especially for something that's like an environmental encounter. Like, in my mind, for the most part, environmental encounters should not be particularly deadly, unless there's like a good reason for it. But yeah, my first encounter, I almost had not TPK, but I almost had a player death in session 1. Not super great. So I had them level up to level 2, which helps. Like level 2 is still pretty squishy, but at least you've got almost double the HP. You're in the double digits. Not gonna be one shot by a giant crab or something. So that was good. That was helpful. But it went really well. And actually, because session 1 was basically the back half of session 0, we only had an hour and a half. That combat encounter took the bulk of the session for the second group. The first group didn't have that combat encounter, so they didn't do a whole lot of role play either at first. They just like, well, we want our money back. We're gonna barge into this cave. And actually, one of the players, the wizard of the first group, had requested to have a wand of magic missiles as part of their starting inventory, to which I said yes, but I did have that be one of the things that was stolen in this initial thing, because I just maybe I did more of this than I needed to, but I wanted them to be very motivated to go through this cave system to chase after these footprints for a couple reasons. So one, the person who stole this gold is and if you happen to be one of the players in my campaign watching this video, you should turn this off, because you should not know any of this, what I'm about to say. But the NPC that stole their gold is a halfling rogue that is actually part of another adventuring party that was traveling alone in this particular instance, that I plan on having as sort of a rival, like frenemies, kind of a rival adventuring party in this world. And I wanted him, I thought like he potentially could be a cool recurring character unless the players decide to kill him, which I hope they don't do, because I think it'd be kind of cool. And I thought, how fun would it be, like your first instance of encountering this player is he stole all your money while you were unconscious. So there's that. The second thing is, in this cave system, I have a few things and clues that I'm setting up for later encounters or later parts of the story that I'm seeding things for the future. One is there was a room in the cave that had some carrion crawlers that they fought, and I had modified these carrion crawlers to give them a burrowing ability, because it's just to having them boom pop out of the ground and dirt and rocks fly everywhere. It made it more of an epic and interesting battle. Didn't really change that much mechanically to have them be able to pop out of the ground, but it made the battle and the description of the battle more interesting, and I gave them a few extra hit points too. I had 2 of them for the party of 6. For the party of 5, I only had 1, and they killed it in 1 round. And part of it was because the paladin crit, like, just right away. I was like, okay, I need to make this encounter more difficult, especially now having a 6th player and still having a paladin in the party, I believe. Yeah, I have the Goliath paladin. So I was like, I gotta really beef up this encounter a little bit. So having the second carrion crawler, level 2, party of 6, made it still a much more interesting encounter. And the way that I set that up, which was pretty cool, is the first one was just hanging from the ceiling, and they had to roll a DC like 16 perception to see that. Or if they just walk in, not stealthing high enough into this room, it drops sort of on top of them to attack. And then at the start of the second round of combat is when the second one comes in from underground and just poof pops up. And it was cool kind of how it worked out, because I had some stalagmites coming up from the ground in this underground cavern area, and a group of the players had gathered to hide behind one of those from the main carrion crawler, but the second one at the top of round 2 then appeared next to them, be like, ha, surprise, you're not safe over here, kind of a thing, which was kind of, it was a cool creative way to sort of mess up their plans a little bit and make the battle more interesting. And that's really what, like, part of my goal with like creating battles is, like, I don't want to be just like, oh, there's 5 goblins and they attack. You know, I'm trying to, can I stagger the way enemies enter, or give them unique and unexpected abilities, like the ability to burrow and then pop out of the ground, just to make things a little bit more interesting and to feel more dangerous, even if they're not that much more dangerous. But it's just the surprise and the unexpected element just makes combat so much more interesting. And so that was something that I've been really emphasizing. And then, but in that room, there was a corpse in the room that wasn't particularly old, and it had a letter. It had a map. I believe in that corpse, I had a map of Basar, which I actually printed out on a cloth. I had like a printing service do a cloth map for me, and I handed it to the players, which is really cool. Like, as a DM, when you pull out, like, oh, you find this, and hand it out to them, and they're like, what is this? And they unroll it, and they're like, oh my god, it's a map. Like, that was a really cool thing. I mean, it's not cheap. It's like 40 or 50 bucks, I think, for the size of map, and I had them make it look weathered and like partially torn on the edges. Like, I go all out. But I thought that was super fun, and they loved it. And I gave it to the players, like, listen, it's your job, your responsibility now to keep track of this. If you lose it, you're not getting another one. Like, there's a digital map in the Discord anyway. But the other thing that they found, going back to seeding things for the future, is a letter. And this letter makes mention, it says, like, hey, we were here. It took us 3 days to find the hidden beach and the cave entrance to this underground cave system, where we've heard there's a lost temple to Merkel, and inside this temple is a skull of pure diamond, and I'm gonna sell this thing and have a small fortune and finally be able to free my brother Garthak. And Garthak is another character that may come up later. He is fighting in the Colosseum, or in the Cerulean Crucible, which is basically a blue Colosseum in Satis, which we'll get to later when we get to Satis. So there's there's the Temple of Merkel that I'm seeding, and then there's other things that come up later in like sessions 2 through 3 or 2 through 4. But that was pretty much it for session 1. You know, going through the cave system. This was something that I felt like I probably could have done, made a little bit more interesting at first. It was kind of just a way of getting them to a couple of points. Like I said, very early, small bit of railroading just to introduce some things and get them together. And then, you know, the world, basically, they eventually find out that they're on Okoe Island, Ocoee, and there's one village on this island called Okoe Village, and there's a ship with a captain who can take them back to Satis and the mainland where they came from. That is where eventually this will lead, and that basically the arc 1 of the campaign is escape from Okoe Island. Like, that is the thing. And there's other stuff that I'm going to introduce and have going on, because the players will have the opportunity to have a meaningful impact on Okoe Village's destiny and how things unfold there. So it's not just escape from this island, it's also have a little mini adventure and get to impact the story of this island on your way out. And then we're going to get to Satis in a little bit. But I'm curious, what do you think of this setup for a campaign? Is it a good idea, a bad idea? Is it, you know, if you have a party composed of half new players, does it make sense to railroad them a little bit early on just to kind of get them accustomed to the game and the setting, or should I just let them loose from day one? Let me know what you think. I'm curious what you think. My name's Ben. I'm the Rookie DM, and I'll see you in the next one.